from the broadcast center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL9 News at 9.
Now it's time to be open. It's time to stay open.
Now at 9, President Trump putting the pressure on schools to reopen this fall, even as cases of coronavirus skyrocket across the country. Plus, hospitals filling up fast in coronavirus hotspots, and now frontline workers are running out of personal protective equipment again. And benefiting from the bailouts. We now know who got federal loan money during the pandemic, including some with strong political connections. Welcome to KCAL9 News at 9 and streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Juan Fernandez. Coronavirus could kill 200,000 Americans by November 1st. The new prediction from one of the leading models used by the White House comes as new infections of COVID-19 are exploding nationwide. In the latest 24 hours, the U.S. added more than 58,000 new cases of coronavirus, and more than 1,100 deaths were reported nationwide as well. Hospital beds and intensive care units are filling up. In Florida, more than 50 hospital ICUs are now full. Military medical personnel are headed to Texas to assist doctors and nurses there. All this as President Trump tonight says he will pressure schools to reopen this fall. And educators say they don't have a plan to safely reopen. KCAL9's Tom Waite joins us from the newsroom now with the very latest on the battle to contain the pandemic. Tom?
Hi there. Good evening, Juan. Well, the news, of course, is not good. The pandemic is raging in areas across the nation, as you just reported. President Trump is trying to convince the country the virus is under control, but his own experts are contradicting him once again tonight, saying we are nowhere near out of the first wave. Tonight, ICUs in more than 50 hospitals across Florida have now reached capacity, including 3 in the Baptist Health System.
We don't have is the staffing. The nurses have been working relentlessly for over 2 weeks, and that leads to burnout.
As cases surge, one Miami hospital is now going to be turned into a 150-bed dedicated COVID-19 nursing home. In the state of Texas today, they crossed 10,000 new cases in a single day for the first time.
It feels like someone's stabbing you in your sides when you try to inhale.
Patty Peterson is a single mom raising 2 daughters and her niece. The 29-year-old nurse tested positive for the virus, and she's been in a critical care unit since last week.
You know, everyone thinks it's blown out of proportion until you're the person laying in CCU who has no contact with anybody, and you're helpless.
A new study out shows asymptomatic carriers to be responsible for the transmission of half of coronavirus cases.
You could inadvertently and innocently affect someone who's really vulnerable.
President Trump once again today maintained the outbreak is improving.
Deaths are way down from this horrible China virus.
He claims that despite the rising number of cases, we have the lowest mortality rate in the world, but we actually have the 6th highest death rate of the 20 most affected countries, according to Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Anthony Fauci says while the death rate has dropped, President Trump's argument, which he has made repeatedly in recent weeks, is not a good one.
It's a false narrative to take comfort in a lower rate of death. There's so many other things that are very dangerous and bad about this virus. Don't get yourself into false complacency.
We'll hold you to it September.
Also at the White House today, President Trump left no doubt he will demand schools reopen nationwide this fall.
We're very much going to put pressure on governors and everybody else to open the schools. We're not closing, we'll never close.
That's causing concern among some national education leaders.
I dare him to sit at the back of that classroom and breathe the air of those little kids and sit there for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then take whatever they sneezed all over him back home. We have to do this right, or people are going to die.
Even in Florida, where the virus is spiking, officials there announced they are requiring public schools to reopen next month. Tonight on CNN, the president of Florida's Education Association blasted that plan.
We're not going forward, we're going backwards. And we have a governor who has tethered himself to the president of the United States, who is uniquely defined by his Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. We have been given no guidance. We have been given no regulations that make sense to reopen our schools.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says schools will have to get creative before students can return.
It's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. Modify scheduling. things like masks at all time, things like alternating morning, afternoon, decreasing the size and the space between desks.
Dr. Anthony Fauci also said today he's in favor of states mandating masks. And that new model that we told you about, showing 200,000 deaths, it predicts nearly 50,000 lives could be saved in the U.S. by wearing those masks. Juan, back to you.
All right, Tommy, thank you. Emergency room doctors and nurses say they're running critically low on personal protective equipment again. Among the states most overwhelmed is Arizona. Tucson's mayor says her hospitals could run out of PPE in a couple of weeks. They're also having trouble keeping up with testing.
You see video of people in line for hours in 100-degree heat.
We should have this testing and tracing strategy already down packed, and we don't. We can't give up. We just cannot give up.
Across the country, delayed test results are also a problem. COVID-19 testing, meantime, at Dodger Stadium resumed today after a holiday weekend shutdown. The stadium is the largest testing site in the county. It reopened just as there's been a surge of young people testing positive for coronavirus. Roughly 50% of new cases are people between the ages of 18 and 40.
A lot of people, like, they don't wear it, and then you tell them and they get mad.
It's not all or nothing. It's too dynamic. It's too complex an issue. So sometimes, yeah, you wear a mask. Sometimes you don't need to wear a mask.
City officials say they expect to administer 80,000 tests this week alone. They say if you go to the website to sign up and the testing location you want is full, go ahead and try another. They say there are more than 100 locations throughout the county. You can get a link on our website, KCAL9.com. LA County reported a record number of new coronavirus cases today, but health officials say about half of the 4,000 cases are due to a backlog from last week. Orange County reported more than 1,000 new infections and 3 new deaths. Riverside County reported 340 new cases. Officials say 6 hospitals are at capacity and are using their surge plans, but they point out that they are not overwhelmed, at least not just yet. Well, on the eve of Major League Soccer's season opener, the first match was postponed today after 5 players from the Nashville Soccer Club tested positive for COVID-19. The team from Dallas withdrew from the tournament on Monday after 10 players tested positive. And as Dana Jacobson reports, other professional leagues are also wrapping up and watching nervously.
The NBA season is one step closer to resuming, with teams like the Orlando Magic arriving at Walt Disney World today, where practices and games will be held.
Last night,
25 players have reportedly tested positive for coronavirus and were held back. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver.
We're going to be doing daily testing. And incidentally, when our players are not playing, which is the vast majority of the time they're there, they will be observing physical distancing and wearing masks.
As for Major League Baseball, teams are proceeding cautiously.
Here's number 35.
Cleveland Indians outfielder Franmil Reyes was taken out of training camp after attending a 4th of July party while not wearing a mask.
We called him and told him that he needs to test again before we can let him back to practice.
Last year's World Series teams, the Houston Astros and Washington Nationals, both resumed their practices today after canceling them due to delays in COVID testing.
I'm the caretaker for these guys. These are my guys. I couldn't live with myself if we went on haphazardly.
Nationals pitcher Sean Doolittle said if fans want to see baseball return, they need to do their part, like wearing masks.
We've waited long enough. Like, shouldn't sports come back now? No, there's things we have to do in order to bring the stuff back.
To bring the NFL back, the league and its players are at odds. The NFL cut its preseason games from 4 to 2 last week, but the Players Association has unanimously voted that it wants to cancel all preseason games in 2020. Dana Jacobson, Boston.
Tonight, Maryland biotech company Novavax is in the hunt for a COVID-19 vaccine. It's getting a major dose of funding from the government's Operation Warp Speed program, which is now committing $2 billion to that potential vaccine program and another possible antibody treatment. Here's correspondent Dr. John LaPook.
It's the government's biggest bet yet on the race to find a vaccine for the coronavirus. As part of the U.S. government's Operation Warp Speed program, Novavax is getting $1.6 billion to manufacture 100 million doses. But with the vaccine still in trial, there's no guarantee it will work.
If one of those vaccines doesn't turn out to be safe and effective, you just have to throw out all of those doses that were made.
The risk we're taking is to gain months so that we will be able to have it ready. And if we lose that, we're only losing money.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says this is not like a measles vaccine, which usually lasts for many years.
We may need a boost to continue the protection, but right now we do not know how long it lasts.
Vaccines stimulate the body to make infection-fighting proteins called antibodies. Another approach is to create designer antibodies in the lab.
They're just trying to make very functional antibody that neutralizes the virus.
Today, the government announced a $450 million contract with Regeneron to manufacture a double antibody cocktail. The company plans to see if the treatment helps patients infected with COVID-19 or if it prevents infection in people exposed to the virus. Dr. John LaPook, South Shaftesbury, Vermont.
Well, turning now to the weather, our weather, we are looking at fire danger in our forecast. KCAL9 meteorologist Evelyn Taft joins us now with details on the hot and dry conditions headed our way. Hello, Ev.
Hello, Juan. Hot, dry indeed, and fire danger a concern. By the end of the week, we're expecting temperatures to really climb by at least a few degrees from where we were today. Today was a pretty warm day nonetheless. As we get a look at temperatures this evening, you'll see numbers mostly in the 60s, the 70s, 76 in Riverside, 77 as we head to Corona, 73 for Fullerton, 68 downtown, and 63 for Malibu, 67 at LAX this evening. And as we get a look at wind speeds tonight, you will see a little bit of a breeze still coming through for Lancaster, Palm Springs, single digits elsewhere. So really calmer, but we're expecting onshore conditions to turn offshore quickly by the end of the week and expecting, again, hot, dry, and windy conditions, elevated fire danger, triple-digit heat by the weekend. We're going to break it all down for you coming up in our full forecast in just a little bit. But for now, Juan, back to you.
Evelyn, thanks so much. Now to developing news tonight from the Supreme Court. We're learning Chief Justice John Roberts was hospitalized with a head injury after falling during a walk near his home. This happened last month. The Supreme Court says Roberts was treated for an injury to his forehead, stayed at the hospital overnight out of an abundance of caution. Doctors believe Roberts fell because he was lightheaded and dehydrated. They ruled out a seizure, which Roberts has had in the past. The Supreme Court is set to release opinions on several cases tomorrow, including two that have to do with President Trump's financial documents. Well, Trump's family secrets coming out in a new tell-all book from the president's niece. The stories he doesn't want the world to hear. We'll have them coming up. Then, is the U.S. considering banning TikTok? Why Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Americans might not want to download the popular app. And coming up, emergency landing. A Delta plane damaged mid-flight. We'll tell you how this all happened. That's coming up next. Developing news tonight, LA County's Central Jail could soon be empty. The Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to establish a task force to look into shutting it down, including transferring violent criminals to other facilities and releasing early nonviolent inmates. The sheriff opposes the idea, saying it is the only jail downtown that has 1,000 individual cells for the most dangerous of inmates. Opponents argue getting rid of the jail would threaten public safety and want a new facility built to replace it. Another scathing book aimed at President Donald Trump, and this time coming from his niece Mary. It's called Too Much and Never Enough: How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. KCAL9's Chris Holmstrom shows us what's in the book and reaction from the White House.
In the book, Mary Trump blames President Trump's father for creating a toxic family dynamic that best explains how the president acts today. She blames the family for raising a narcissistic, damaged man who poses an immediate danger to the public. Too Much and Never Enough offers a scathing portrayal of President Trump's life. Mary Trump, whose father, Freddie Trump, died following struggles with alcoholism, writes that she could no longer remain silent. In the book, she writes, Donald, following the lead of my grandfather and with complicity, silence, and inaction of his siblings, destroyed my father. I can't let him destroy my country. She also alleges the president paid a friend to take the SATs to get into the University of Pennsylvania. She writes, Trump was worried that his grade point average, which put him far from the top of his class, would scuttle his efforts to get accepted. Mary Trump says that some of the book is based on her own memory and other dialogue was based on what she was told by family members. Another allegation talks about Trump's ability to gain support of prominent Christian leaders and white evangelicals. She goes on to say, the only time Donald went to church was when the cameras were there. It's mind-boggling. He has no principles, none. Counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, says the book is strictly Mary Trump's opinion.
Well, he's not her patient, he's her uncle. And I know firsthand the way the president feels about his late brother, Fred Trump Jr., Ms. Trump's father, and he has been very public about his commitment to ending drug abuse in our nation because of the way he witnessed his own brother's struggles with alcoholism.
White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany also spoke out and slammed the book.
No response other than it's a book of falsehoods, and that's about it.
And the president has battled in court to try to get the book from being released next week, but so far, courts have ruled it will hit stores. Too Much and Never Enough is published by Simon & Schuster, which is owned by CBS, which also owns KCAL9. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Chris, thanks. Back now to meteorologist Evelyn Taft, where the big concern is fire weather in the forecast. Ev?
Juan, big time. We've got hot, dry, windy conditions. Fire weather, as you mentioned, on the way by the end of the week, expecting triple-digit heat. Actually, a little cooler for now, but not for too much longer. Cooler tonight as well. Right now, temperature is looking like this. We are in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. 83 for Ontario, 76 for Burbank, 79 as we head to Van Nuys, 83 in Santa Clarita this evening, and 57 as we head to Big Bear. As we get a look at wind speeds, you will see still a little windier for Palm Springs and for Lancaster. Currently 14-mile-per-hour winds, 16 miles per hour for Palm Springs, 9 for Santa Ana, 7 for Ontario, and 7 as well for LAX. Our surface analysis right here showing us high pressure expanding westward into Southern California, and as it does, we will continue to see much warmer, in fact, downright hot temperatures by the end of the week and the weekend, especially fire weather along the way. As we get a look at temperatures for tonight, though, we're getting a little bit of a break from the heat. Even if you didn't want to run that AC tonight, probably don't even have to, with temperatures dipping down to the 60s. Very comfortable for most of us. 64 for Burbank, 65 downtown, 63 for LAX, and by tomorrow, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even getting close to the triple digits. Not quite getting there for most of us, with the exception of Palm Springs at 109, but later this week, we most certainly will be getting there, especially for our inland valleys. Let's get a look at my 7-day for the beaches, the basin, and the valleys. You'll see temperatures mostly in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. 90s turning to triple digits by Saturday and Sunday, and still hot by Monday. For the IE, the high desert and the mountains, we're expecting temperatures to continue to stay very hot, at least for now. Really, by the end of the week, that's when the warm-up happens. But I do want to point out we're still in the 90s for tomorrow. We're still hitting the triple digits by Thursday, Friday, and the weekend even hotter through Saturday, Sunday, and still hot by Monday. Juan, back to you.
Yeah, we need to take it easy out there. Evelyn, thanks. Take a look at this. A Delta jet damaged by hail strikes. The flight was about to land at New York's LaGuardia Airport last night during the storm. The hail damaged the nose of the plane, as you see there. The pilot asked to make an emergency landing over at nearby JFK Airport because there was a problem with the navigation equipment. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. The FAA is now investigating. Coming up next year at 9, looting suspects arrested, how police tracked down 2 men who raided stores in Santa Monica. And a nationwide movement known as Blackout Day, how shoppers use their money to send a strong message.
Closed captioning is sponsored by Owning, transforming the way real estate is financed, bought, and sold.
Store security cameras and social media posts helped lead police to 2 suspects connected with looting in Santa Monica. Police arrested Sebastian Martinez of El Segundo and Christopher Gutierrez, who was a transient. The pair are accused of looting the REI and a van store on May 31st. Detectives scoured hours of security video and social media posts that showed the license plate of a car that was loaded up with the loot. The suspects were stopped by Manhattan Beach police officers who spotted the car. Police say they found stolen items still inside the car. Gutierrez is also accused of assault with a deadly weapon. Today is Blackout Day. It's a call to draw national attention to the spending power in the Black community. You may have noticed the hashtag Blackout Day 2020 across social media today. The idea is for Black Americans to showcase their economic power by refusing to spend money on this Tuesday. But if they do, they're encouraged to support Black-owned businesses. Local entrepreneurs say it's sending a strong message.
I'm glad that the flags are being raised, the antennas are up, everybody's got their radar on, because that type of sensitivity is necessary considering the things that have been happening.
There has been a resurgence of Black pride in the things that we do collectively, like as a community.
Well, to give you an idea of the contribution of Black Americans to the U.S. economy, Nielsen says African Americans spent more than $1 trillion on consumer goods in 2018 alone. All right, coming up next at 9 o'clock, the CDC releasing new guidelines for keeping your children safe while they practice sports. And the Dodgers name their opening day starter, Jamie Maggio, with the details next in sports.
Live from the Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL9 News at 9.
This week, President Trump is headed to a major coronavirus hotspot. Welcome back to KCAL9 News at 9 and streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. I'm Juan Fernandez. The president is headed to the Sunshine State even though it's had a surge of COVID-19 cases. Caitlin Collin reports his trip has nothing to do with the virus.
As the coronavirus surges in South Florida, President Trump will fly to Miami-Dade County on Friday, but not because of the raging pandemic. Instead, Trump's trip is for a briefing at U.S. Southern Command on drug trafficking in South America and a campaign fundraiser.
The president has an important message to share. We've been traveling all around the country.
Today, the White House defended Trump traveling to an area where cases have soared and medical resources are limited.
But he has a fundraiser on Friday. Is that really important? We've had several fundraisers. We've had important messages to share. We've been all around the country.
Trump and his aides are tested regularly, but questions remain about whether he's putting his entourage or the area at risk.
He and the vice president are the two most essential workers in the country, so they are tested regularly.
When any president travels, Secret Service devotes a wealth of resources, like sending agents in advance to scope out hospitals as they prepare for a worst-case scenario. Friday's visit could affect hospitals that are already overwhelmed and put agents at risk as well. Some tested positive in Oklahoma when Trump went there for a rally and then again in Arizona. The White House insists Trump isn't downplaying the virus, but his only mention of it today was an inaccurate claim that the U.S. has the lowest mortality rate in the world. While U.S. fatality rates have declined lately, they aren't the lowest in the world, and at least 13 other hard-hit countries have lower death rates. Today, Dr. Anthony Fauci warned about a false complacency over a lower death rate.
It's a false narrative to take comfort in a lower rate of death. There's so many other things that are very dangerous and bad about this virus. Don't get yourself into false complacency.
It's unlikely Trump will wear a mask when he travels to Miami, since he's refused to do so publicly for months. His own aides see it as a foregone conclusion, despite the message some say it could send to his supporters.
What's the point? Everyone who gets near him's been tested, and nobody gets within 6 feet of him. I mean, what's the point here?
The White House effort to emphasize the importance of mask wearing will make a difference.
You can keep asking it, and I'm not going to go there.
That was Caitlin Collins reporting. On Tuesday, Florida reported more than 7,300 new cases of COVID-19 over the previous 24 hours. That brings the state's total to nearly 214,000. Well, Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has tested positive for COVID-19 following months of downplaying the virus. President Bolsonaro started showing symptoms yesterday before being tested. He revealed the positive result during a televised address this morning. Bolsonaro had referred to the coronavirus as just a little flu and appeared in public without a mask as recently as this past weekend. The president wore a mask today and advised people not to get near him. Also in Brazil, the country's health ministry reported more than 20,000 new cases and more than 620 deaths in the last 24 hours. This is video of mass graves for COVID victims in Sao Paulo. Despite the fact that the coronavirus continues to batter Brazil, some bars and restaurants reopened to the public over the weekend. Brazil follows the U.S. globally with the highest number of COVID-19 infections and deaths. If you're wondering which activities can increase your chances of getting the virus, there's now a scale that can help you guide you. As J.D. Miles reports, it was created by a task force of physicians.
A trip to the gym, 8. Shopping at a mall, 5.
Pumping gas, too. The risks of getting COVID-19 now have 1 through 9 numbers attached to them after the Texas Medical Association put together a guide to help people navigate through the pandemic.
I'm comfortable with a risk scale from 1 to 4, but 5 and above may not suit me.
Dallas Dr. Mark Casanova says the guide focused on 37 activities, covering everything from simple hugs and handshakes to attending stadium-sized events. They are ranked to help people decide which ones elevate the danger of contracting COVID-19. The lowest risk on the 1 to 9 scale comes from opening mail, which some people worry will carry the virus. The highest risk, according to the study, is associated with stadium events, mega churches, and going to bars, which the state has now closed. Grocery shopping, restaurant takeout, and activities like jogging, golf, and tennis are all considered low risk. But hair salons, dine-in restaurants, air travel, fitness centers, and even hugs or handshakes are ranked as moderately high risk or above. Engaging in contact sports and visiting a movie theater are also identified as a lot less safe than sitting in a doctor's waiting room or swimming in a public pool.
So I do think that the public has needed and frankly deserves a little bit more directed guidance. And we've done our best as we gain new understanding, as we get clarity on the transmission of this virus, its activity and its interaction with us in the community and how we live our lives.
Well, for millions of children and their parents, organized sports this season were like no other. And the CDC has updated guidelines for youth sports safety in the age of COVID-19. Most of it is advice is already being encouraged for everyone, like washing your hands, staying home when sick, and social distancing. The CDC also recommends no handshakes, high fives, and no sharing of equipment. Parents and coaches are encouraged to reduce contact between players, and everyone should be wearing masks when possible, especially staff and spectators. The EPA has given its first approval to disinfectants that kill coronavirus. 2 Lysol products are federally approved. They are Lysol Disinfectant Spray and Lysol Disinfectant Max Cover Mist. The approval is based on lab testing that found both products kill the virus 2 minutes after contact on hard, non-porous surfaces. The University of California system names its first ever black president. Dr. Michael Drake will replace Janet Napolitano, who is retiring. He was recently president of The Ohio State University. He retired from that job last month. He is no stranger to California, though. Before Ohio, Drake was chancellor at UC Irvine from 2005 to 2014. He was unanimously approved today by the Board of Regents. Well, who got the money? We're learning who received federal loans from the Paycheck Protection Program. We'll have details of political connections ahead. Plus, a flash mob of women in wedding gowns, the reason they're upset during the pandemic. Evelyn?
And we are expecting temperatures to get a whole lot warmer as we head toward the end of the week and the weekend. I'll have the details coming up.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS in LA, all in just one tap. Download now.
At least 3 pubs in the United Kingdom have already decided to close after 1 customer at each tested positive for COVID-19. The pubs have contacted some of their customers and decided to close up to allow for deep cleanings. The UK Health Ministry applauded the action. Pubs are required to take customer contact details on arrival, which has been crucial in contact tracing. Pubs across England were allowed to reopen this past weekend after being shut down for more than 3 months. A group of women dressed as brides carried out a flash mob in Rome today. They're protesting against coronavirus safety measures that prohibit large religious ceremonies like a big wedding. Their protest is called the Flash Mob of the Singles or Unmarried Ones. More than a dozen single women wore their bridal gowns and were pictured in front of Rome's famous sites such as the Trevi Fountain. They were also pictured outside the Italian Parliament, where they joined other members representing Italy's wedding industry, which, of course, like many, have been hit hard due to the crisis. All right, a nice day today for us here, but things are warming up for us this week with triple digits in the forecast. Evelyn Taft is back with more on that. Hey, Ev.
Hey, Juan, indeed, triple digits back, fire weather back as well by the end of the week. And technically, temperatures are a little cooler over the next couple of days. Didn't feel cool today, but we are heading into just a bit of a cool down before we warm things right back up again. You'll see Santa Monica, or we just saw, mostly clear this evening. Temperatures this evening in the 70s and 80s, 60s along the coast. So we're starting to see a little bit of that marine influence, even starting to get to the basin at 67 degrees, Irvine 69, 72 Fullerton, and 76 in Burbank at the airport right there. Wind speeds right now really starting to come through the Santa Clarita Valley and the Antelope Valley. In fact, Lancaster at 14 miles per hour. Palm Springs at 16 miles per hour, and that is right now single digits otherwise. And as we look at our surface analysis, high pressure continuing to build into Southern California. As it does, numbers will continue to warm for us. A whole lot warmer, in fact, as we head toward the end of the week and the weekend. For now, temperature is actually a little cooler into the evening hours. You'll see that overnight. We're dipping down to the 60, 64 Ontario, 65 downtown, and 63 LAX. And as we get a look at temperatures for tomorrow, we are in the 70s and we're also in the 80s. You'll see that right here. 90s as well. 96 San Bernardino, 82 for downtown, and 77 for LAX. And getting a whole lot warmer as we get a look at my 7-day forecast for the beaches, the basin, and the valleys. You'll see temperatures continuing to get warmer by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday especially. That's when we're expecting to see triple-digit heat for our inland valleys. 90s until then, and 70s and 80s for the beaches and for the basin. As we check out the IE, the high desert, and the mountains, you'll see temperatures continuing to warm as well. In fact, a whole lot warmer, downright hot. Even by Thursday, we're starting to see triple digits for the high desert. Even hotter by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And still looking at triple digits by Monday, even by Tuesday, even though we should start to see a little bit of a shift in temperatures by Tuesday. Just a bit. Overall, a very warm to hot week, but again, a whole lot hotter by the end of the week and weekend. And remember, elevated fire danger, a concern. Hot, windy, and of course, dry as well. Juan, back to you.
What a stretch of weather. Evelyn, thanks. Another disturbing video is trending on social media. Coming up, the alleged racist attack in Indiana that was caught on camera, and hear from the victim about what happened there. Plus, a warning for TikTok users why the U.S. might be considering a ban on the popular app. Plus, a survivor of 2 pandemics, and that's not all. We'll hear from a 102-year-old woman who beat the Spanish flu, coronavirus, and get this, 2 bouts of cancer.
KCAL9 News is sponsored by Sweet James, your accident attorneys.
Developing news tonight, a reported racist attack on a black man by a group of white men is under investigation in Indiana. The alleged victim posted video of the incident on Facebook. KCAL9's Jerika Duncan says police are looking into his claim that the men threatened to string him up.
Sean, let him go! We're just trying to get out of here, guys.
A relaxing evening with friends turned violent after 5 white men allegedly attacked Vox Booker, a black man, and pinned him against a tree.
Please let him go. We're going to as soon as you let him go.
Booker, a civil rights activist in Bloomington, Indiana, said the men dragged him, beat him, and threatened to break his arms.
And these men were on top of me, asking for a noose. They literally said the term noose. They yelled, "Leave, leave the boy with us." I wasn't even a man, I was a boy.
You invaded No one invaded you, stupid liberal.
Booker says the confrontation began when the men accused him and his friends of trespassing. The men allegedly started yelling white power among other racial slurs.
What do you really want to call me?
Headed. Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton said he was horrified by the attack and acknowledges that racism still exists in his community.
These are really painful times. It's a painful episode.
On Monday, hundreds of protesters gathered around the Monroe County Courthouse to demand justice for Booker. But the peaceful demonstration ended in chaos after a car rammed into 2 people. One woman was taken to the hospital. No charges have been filed yet. Meanwhile, Booker is waiting for charges to be filed against his alleged attackers and says he's grateful for those who stepped in to save him.
I think the reason why I'm here today is because folks stopped being bystanders and they became active participants. And I hope that we continue to see that movement grow throughout our nation.
Officers
Officers did respond after Booker says he called 911 Saturday, but because no one was arrested, now people are calling for those officers to be suspended because they didn't take immediate action. Jerika Duncan, New York.
The short-form video app TikTok says it's pulling out of Hong Kong, making it the latest tech company to review its involvement in the territory following a sweeping national security law passed by China. The decision comes as the U.S. is reportedly weighing a ban on TikTok. In an interview with Fox News, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the Trump administration is looking at cracking down on TikTok and other Chinese social media apps. Pompeo said people should only download TikTok if they want their private information in the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. TikTok issued a statement saying the company is led by an American CEO and that it's never provided user data to the Chinese government. Newly released data shows who received federal loans from the Paycheck Protection Program. While plenty of small businesses got the money, many with political connections also got PPP loans, including members of the president's inner circle. Sullivan Serfati has the details.
We're processing loans at a pace never achieved before.
Trump's friends, business partners, and family members grabbing cash, receiving millions in potentially forgivable loans as part of the Paycheck Protection Program, intended to help small businesses keep employees on the payroll during the pandemic.
The kind of jobs that have also been saved, it's incredible.
The long-awaited data just released by the White House revealing that among the struggling small businesses like gyms and hair salons, the politically well-connected, the powerful, and those with close links to Trump benefited greatly. Companies associated with Jared Kushner's family businesses received several loans totaling at least $8 million. A hydroponic lettuce farm backed by the president's son, Don Jr., received at least $150,000.
There's one right over here. Stand up, Albert. Where the hell are you, Albert? Stand up, Albert.
Trump's dentist and frequent golf partner, at least $150,000.
He's a good golfer, but I'm actually a better golfer than him, right?
Conservative website Newsmax, run by Trump donor Chris Ruddy, got up to $5 million. The Daily Caller, co-founded by Fox News' Tucker Carlson, up to $1 million. The law firm which helped Trump in the Russia investigation received between $5 and $10 million. A trucking company founded by Trump's Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue received over $150,000. The family business of Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao and wife of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell received over $350,000. And two wineries that Republican Congressman Devin Nunes co-owns received at least $1 million each. More than $520 billion was given out to more than 4.8 million small businesses. Among those, $273 million in loans went to more than 100 companies that are owned or operated by major donors to Trump's election efforts. But it wasn't just those close to Trump, among them a firm linked to Nancy Pelosi's husband and the consulting group founded by former Obama advisor Jim Messina.
That was reporter Sullivan Serfati. Now, we want to point out there's nothing to indicate that these companies did anything wrong or received favorable treatment. They represent only a small portion of the nearly 5 million companies receiving PPE loans. Deutsche Bank is slapped with a $150 million fine over its ties to accuser sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. New York authorities said Deutsche Bank let Epstein conduct hundreds of transactions which totaled millions of dollars without giving them additional scrutiny. The suspicious transactions included payments to people alleged to have been Epstein's co-conspirators in sexually abusing young women. Well, you'll be able to snack and drink alcohol in the air again if you are flying Delta or United. Airlines stopped serving adult beverages and snacks last month to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Now Delta will let you order up if you're in first class or on a trip that's more than 500 miles. With United, you'll have to be in a premium cabin or on an international flight. Guidelines could change again as the pandemic continues to change. A woman in New Hampshire beat the Spanish flu as a child, and now at 102 years old, she's a survivor of coronavirus. Gary Tuckman talked to her about beating the odds.
We headed to New Hampshire to meet this remarkable woman who just recovered from the coronavirus. Do you feel lucky today?
I always feel lucky.
I never had any real problems in my life. Everything seemed to fall into place.
An incredible attitude, considering all that has happened in the life of 102-year-old Jerry Chappelle. Julia Chappelle is her daughter. When her mother was a baby, a little over 101 years ago,
she had what we call the Spanish flu, which was a huge pandemic during the First World War.
That's right. Jerry Chappelle's family says she survived the influenza pandemic in the early 20th century and the coronavirus in the early 21st century. Back in 1918, little Jerry and her mother were both seriously ill.
And the doctor told her father, they're both going to die. Prepare yourself, but that's my medical opinion.
But daughter and mother survived. Jerry went to college, got a bachelor's and master's, became a teacher, and got married right after World War II. Her husband died almost 4 decades ago. But they had 2 children, and there are now 3 grandchildren and 6 great-grandchildren. After Jerry retired, she had breast cancer and colon cancer, and she beat both. Can I call you Jerry?
Delighted.
It's delightful to meet you.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
Wonderful.
You're an amazing woman.
Why?
I'm going to tell you why. You're modest. But you had coronavirus, and 101 years ago you had Spanish flu. And you survived it twice. You're an amazing woman.
I am.
Jerry is a resident of the senior living community in Nashua for several years now.
Hey, Mom.
On this day, her daughter came to pay a visit. Social distancing and masks still required.
So, how are you doing?
Keep the mask on?
Yes, we have to keep the mask on. Yes. Do you recognize the top? You should. I stole it from you. Don't think you're getting it back.
The employees of her senior community were upset and saddened when Jerry tested positive for the coronavirus. But when they told her the diagnosis,
she had an incredible attitude. And she, took every day and said, I guess I'm sick. They told me I'm sick, but I'm not sick.
But like the Spanish flu and the 2 bouts of cancer, 102-year-old Jerry Chappelle managed to fend off the coronavirus as well. Thank you for letting us meet you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Gary Tuckman, Nashua, New Hampshire.
When it's not your time, it's not your time, right? All right, there's much more news ahead on KCAL9 News at 10.
Orange County restaurants don't have to tell you if their employees test positive for COVID-19. What one OC mom is now doing about it.
International students may have to leave the country if they're taking solely online courses. I'm Candace Crone. I'll have the details coming up.
You can watch CBSN Los Angeles 24/7. It's easy to find us, and it's free. One way to watch us is on our website, cbsla.com. Look for the red Watch button at the top of the screen. If you click on that, you're instantly connected to CBSN Los Angeles. You can also watch by downloading the free CBS News app. At the bottom of the screen is a live button. And here we are, CBSN Los Angeles. Join us.